Hi there. Happy Halloween, although most of you will be looking at this the day after. Trump's going to win. Okay? Question is how much and when will we know? First, I would say ignore the pollsters. They've actually never seen an election like this. Here's how I look at it. Look at 2016 and look at 2020. Trump won in 2016. There were a lot of conservatives that didn't vote for him. There were a lot of people that didn't vote for him that are voting for him this time. That alone tells me he'll win. How many people voted for Trump in 2016 have now switched to vote for Joe Biden? I mean, the people who hated Trump hated him before. So yes, there's been a lot more activity and concern on the part of social media and other places, newspapers, to try to make sure he doesn't win. But it always comes down to the votes. So he's going to win. Now, of course, many of us are concerned about cheating and things like that. So I'm not so sure we're going to know by the end of the day, November 3rd, that Trump won. And even though there's a very good possibility we will, because of the, let's say there's problems in Pennsylvania, but if he wins even without Pennsylvania, then it doesn't really matter how late the ballots come in to Pennsylvania. Doesn't matter. So let's hope it's a big win, and I think it will be. But what I always do in things like this, when there's some uncertainty, is I pick a date in the future where I will know who will have won. So for me, I say for sure, by Thanksgiving I'll know. Now I'm not saying that will happen, but it helps, because otherwise you're setting yourself up for disappointment if we don't know. And we do know that happened in November of 2000. It took a long time before we actually knew who the president was. But in that case, there was only one state that was in contention, and that was Florida. And he's going to win Florida big. So don't worry about it. Now, you can worry about it, and many people will. I saw a woman on Twitter, some young woman, said, "Oh, I'm so upset. I just saw some pollster who's always been right every time about the elections, who's going to win in 1984. She said, "I saw him on Martha McCallum on Fox News." So I happened to catch that. I don't watch Martha McCallum, but I caught it on YouTube. And it was idiotic, okay? He just had a bunch of metrics, and according to those metrics, he could determine who's going to win. And I thought, that'd be good for that young woman who's so upset. You kind of have to learn, maybe by experience, if it's going to stick. You have to just see that yourself. You have to see how wrong they can be, and then you'll remember. Don't ever put you judge for yourself. And we've had this whole walk-away movement. We've had a lot of conservatives. I mean, just take the pro-life community. They are so revved up to vote for Donald Trump, more so than they were, say, in 2016. Huge numbers of all kinds of different groups, and a huge, huge number of people who literally have never voted before. That's shocking. So there's just a whole lot of things that say Trump is definitely going to win this. So don't watch those shows. Don't watch those so-called political pundits, even the pollsters. Because the pollsters are going by old ways of doing things, and they don't know how to capture certain things. And I remind you, I've mentioned this before, the day of the election, because of exit polls, it said Donald Trump was losing. And it was about 2 o'clock in the afternoon. And I sat on that couch over there and had a good cry. Because, oh my God, it was such a big thing to me that I had changed from being a Democrat to a Republican. I felt like I had just done as much as I could. And it was like, shoot, all for naught. But he won. And the reason for that, apparently, is that these exit polls, most of the Trump voters didn't tell the exit pollers who they voted for. They basically said, forget it, or, I don't want to say. And so they didn't count that, not recognizing that a lot of Trump voters didn't want to say that they voted for Trump. And so they got the exit polls wrong. I once read a whole book about political pundits. Now, this is different than pollsters, but how political pundits are wrong so many times. They're so wrong. But it doesn't matter. They still keep their job. So whatever you're thinking or feeling now, just know that this is a learning experience for you. This is a learning experience in terms of how do you deal with uncertainty in your life when something is important. Because anybody listening to this really wants Donald Trump to win. And there's that uncertainty. So how do you deal with that in your life? Well, I choose, my brain chooses, he's going to win. I feel very certain about that. And I'm not even going to think about if Biden and Harris wins. I would cross that bridge when I came to it. But whatever happens, there's been a patriotism that has awakened in this country that's very strong. So don't worry about it. He's going to win. I mean, personally, I would love it to be a huge win, just to show these people who think they're so smart, they're so much better than we are, and that we are low information voters, and they think Donald Trump is racist. They think we vote for this reason or that reason, and they're wrong. They're wrong. So don't worry about it. One of the things I thought, now, as political junkies, which I call myself that, but I still recommend that you do not read or listen to the left. Because I think if you do, let's say you think, because the reason I thought of this is because I was watching Patricia Dixon one day. And she had a very strong anger aura to her, which she usually doesn't have. She's usually, one of the things, part of her appeal is just her patriotism, her common sense, her knowledge, all of those things. But she said, she was so surprised about people on the left. She needed to know what they were thinking. She was like shocked. How could they think that? So she decided to watch CNN and other things. But see, I actually think reading, and not only are you getting bad information, it is junk food. See, I don't eat junk food. But there's also junk food for your mind. So what are you putting into your mind? You put that stuff into your mind, it affects how you think. So you'll see that. You'll either develop fear, you'll develop bad feelings, or some of it could even seep in. So one of the things, like with big lie technique, is if you say something over and over again, like, Donald Trump is terrible with his tweets, over and over and over again. You keep hearing that, you keep hearing that. And so you might not agree, but then you'll say, well, I'm not saying you'll say that, but many people will. Well, yeah, his tweets aren't so good. You start, without realizing it, picking it up and starting to use that language. And I'm thinking, what's wrong with his tweets? I don't care. That's great. We know what he's thinking. Doesn't necessarily mean it's policy, but we know what he's thinking all the time. So don't even watch that stuff, people. I think it does not help you. I jotted down so many thoughts throughout the week. There's so much to say. Let me just say something about Joe Biden. Because I've thought about that. One of the things, of course, you know, the Joe Biden right now has severe cognitive decline. We know that. But even before his severe cognitive decline, one of the things I've thought is he is attached to his family members. And you could say he loves his family members. I don't know if love is the right word, because he certainly hasn't done the right things in like raising his son. I mean, look how messed up his son is. So something wasn't right there. When your kids turn out that bad, something isn't right. I don't know what that is, but something isn't right. So let's say he's attached to his family. They're important to him. So why did Joe Biden become a politician? What is it he wanted to do as a politician? I've been thinking about this a lot, because if you look at the Democrats, many of the Democrats, why have so many of them gone along with this radical turn in the Democratic Party? What happened to resigning on principle? I mean, you look at Chuck Schumer, you look at Nancy Pelosi. They didn't support these kind of radical things before, but now they're full on in. They're full bore. And you look at the 90s, when there was a lot of concern about crime and those issues. So that's why Kamala Harris, you know, did some draconian things, you know, walking up marijuana users in California when she was AG. And you look at Joe Biden with the crime bill and hanging out with the other senators, even noted segregationists. So what did Joe Biden do? How did he stay in power? Well, he was from a small state, Delaware. And so obviously there's businesses, you know, because one of the things many corporations incorporate in Delaware, because they just had a simple system. I remember knowing lots of corporations, even in California, that they would incorporate in Delaware. So they incorporate in Delaware. So he's somehow friendly to those groups, all the credit card companies. He gave them what they wanted. And then, and you see this today, where there's a reluctance of many senators, even Republican senators, to outright criticize Joe Biden because he's a friendly, backslapping politician. He has this like friendly demeanor. And not to everybody. Obviously, he's way too much touchy-feely. He's creepy. Okay, he had that incident with Tara Reid. But that's how he made it. And then he could help his extended family members and get wealthy in the process. But it was really never, that I can see, about caring about this country. Because he was willing to sell this country out. He still never says anything bad about China. To me, that is amazing. And then I think about many of the Democrats and what they've done. They don't care really about the shutdown and people hurting. They really don't care. They say they care, but they don't care. So that's why they've all been able to change. I mean, at least on the Republican side, the Republicans that didn't really like Trump, they kind of just went away. Take Paul Ryan, for example. He stepped down. He didn't run. They've kind of just gotten out. And I don't hear about them, the Republicans, who got out getting super rich. Jason Chaffetz from Utah. Trey Gowdy. I mean, are these guys rich? No, I don't see it. They don't have these lucrative consulting arrangements, lobbying. They're much more ethical. And there was that one Democratic congressperson who basically resigned from the party on principle, during the impeachment hearings, and he went over to the Republican side. So Democrats, I say this because I used to be a Democrat. And I find this, I've thought a lot about this. They want to be part of a global elite. It's really not about the US. Even the whole climate change thing, and I'll talk about that with the Great Reset in just a short bit. But the policies that they are advocating for actually hurt Americans. And they don't think you know enough to know what needs to be done. I remember my surprise when I traveled to the Soviet Union in 1988 and in 1989. They were just barely opening up. Gorbachev was in power, but it was still the Soviet Union. And they had all kinds of things where the elite, like I remember we were on the plane, and Aeroflot, which was like a horrible airline. I mean, it was just so junky looking inside. You know, like the carpet didn't match up. Just weird stuff like that. Didn't give you a good feeling. But anyway, when the flight landed, you know how people here in the US and Europe and everywhere else, they make their turn, they land. But it was like, no, everybody sit, because the flight attendants and the pilots get to leave first. And then we peons can leave. Now, I just got up and just walked out, and they don't, whatever. It's like, really? And then they have a bus. They, those little shuttle buses, they had two of them. One was for kind of the elite group, and the other was for the plebes. And I would see a lot of that when I went around the Soviet Union. So with socialism, that's what happens. And of course, a lot of these Democrats want to move toward a socialist system. So they have the power. They're okay. They have their security system, so they don't really need police for everybody else. They have money. They have privilege. They get to do things, but the rest of us, no. I mean, Gavin Newsom, the governor of California, I just read where his kids are now going to private school. They're going to in-person school. And yet, the people here are struggling about the school situation. How do you like that, Lindsay? That's my niece, Lindsay, with her 3 kids. Just she and all her friends with their children, they're all struggling about the whole school situation. And see, he doesn't have a problem with his kids. So that, to me, is what the Democratic Party has become. We've really got to vote these people out. Now, I know there's a lot of talk and a lot of concern about the Democrats or riots and things like that. Now, obviously, they're only concerned about riots when Trump wins. Because why would you worry about it if Biden won conclusively? Republicans, we don't. We would accept the results of the election. We wouldn't riot. So I'm convinced if there's rioting, and there likely will be, it'll be in Democratic cities, and it's just an excuse. Just like the riots and looting in particular, it's not about Black Lives Matter. Never was. It's just an excuse to loot. But in terms of the leadership of the Democratic Party, I think they know they're in trouble. I get tons of emails because I used to be a Democrat. So normally I wouldn't read these, but I'm interested in what they're thinking. Of course, tons, endless fundraising. Oh, we're not raising enough money. Trump's raising all this money. But we got to tell you folks, the polls are looking good for Trump. We've really got to get our message out. Please send money right away. So they know, okay? Now the rank and file Democrats on Twitter, for example, they don't know, oh, Trump's gonna win. I mean, not Trump's gonna win. Trump's gonna lose. They're in their own little bubble, weird world. So they'll be hurting. And I'm sure all of you have heard this, but what is really amazing is this third quarter, we are having an incredible rebound, 33.1% economic growth. That is the highest in one quarter economic growth that this country has ever had. Now, yes, we're coming from a low point, but it means we are recovering big time. So our unemployment is now at 7.9%. That is really good. And the reason I'm saying that is I've been thinking a lot about the importance of the Trump winning and our path to economic growth. And the fact that he wants to stop the shutdowns and he's doing everything he can to get us to not shut down. And there are many states that aren't shut down. So that is very, very important because the U.S. will provide an example to the rest of the world. Because just as this whole climate nonsense, I'm just going to call it nonsense, alarmism, we got to do something about climate change. You know, when I would read about Europe, a long time ago I decided I am not investing in Europe. Because when you implement these policies, same with Australia, Canada, New Zealand, you really hurt economic growth when you institute these so-called green policies. I don't like to call them green. If you have more CO2, you have more greenery. But whatever, that's the terms that they've used. So people think, oh, green, I love green. No. But anyway, their economies will not do as well. So I notice that Trump and the Republicans now, at least the Republicans I like, but Trump is leading the way. He's not attacking climate change on the science, okay? Although he could, he's not. Because they've been successful in acting like you are not for the science if you don't accept climate change. Well, let me tell you, and I've told you this before, but I'll tell you again, that is the entire reason I became a Republican from a Democrat, because I love science. And I was just blown away, and this took me years actually, in looking into this. I was blown away how it really wasn't good science at all. And then they shut up and got rid of anybody who said otherwise. And many, many have, and many still do. And again, watch Tony Heller. His YouTube videos are so good and interesting and entertaining, but there are many others that also say it. But if you are not watching Tony Heller, just watch that. Because this has been going on forever. In the 70s, I remember we were going to have an ice age, coming ice age. So there's always been this fear-mongering, and so we've got to change. We've got to change and make things different. Really hurt our economy. And there are just so many issues, and I've talked about this before, so I'm not going to do it here. But renewables will not do it. Renewable energy is not renewable. God, we got to get better terms. So just call them unreliables. But they are so landscape intensive. They're so ugly. They have so many problems. It will never do it. So I noticed that when Joe Biden confessed, if you will, and well, of course he's going to confess. He doesn't know not to, because he's been saying this. All of the Democratic candidates have said this, because I watched their debates. They on climate change. They were all raving lunatics. So when Joe Biden said that, when Donald Trump got him to say about fracking, that he wanted to get rid of it, and yes, we've got to get rid of all oil, fossil fuels. Donald Trump has focused his campaign on jobs. You know, as he said, did you hear that, Pennsylvania? Did you hear that, Texas, Ohio, all these places? Okay, that's one part. Yes, there are a lot of oil jobs and fracking jobs, but it is far, far more than that, okay? Because if you got rid of that, which provides well over 80% of our energy right now, but if you got rid of that, everything, and I repeat, everything becomes more expensive. I mean, plastics are made from fossil fuels. You can't get rid of fossil fuels. We would not have the energy, okay? And if you try to get it through these very expensive, unreliable means, everything goes up. Not just your gas prices, but your cars, your manufacturing. So the price of goods, everything goes up. So not only is it inefficient, like electric cars. Are you kidding me? You want to make the electric grid all renewable, and then you want to have electric cars? I mean, if I think about it too much, I just go, that was when I just realized people, there's a lot of smart people out there, a lot of smart people talking about this, even people who've long been in the environmental community. And Michael Schellenberg is very good about that. Schellenberger? Anyway, he's written a book. He's very good, and he really knows California issues and what we're doing with that. So I've long known that Europe is going to be really bad, but now here's another factor. You know, there's no scientific evidence. In fact, it's actually the opposite, that lockdowns work. So why are they doing it? Like in the UK, Boris Johnson. I mean, he's not so smart. As soon as he got in, I liked it for the Brexit thing. But then when he said something about climate change and we got to do this, I thought, oh, no, he's no good. And maybe he got spooked himself when he got COVID. And maybe he had a little brain damage, I don't know. Because he was in a ventilator probably, and that can't be good for you. But he's locking everybody down in the UK, basically, until Christmas? Yeah, that just came out. And they had these stringent lockdowns in other places in Europe. Now, so their economies are going to tank. They're going to tank with these stringent lockdowns, but don't even work. And mask mandates, I mean, the masks, believe me, all information about masks and whether they help or not, that's squashed by social media. You can't read it, but there are studies out there. That's why I don't like wearing the mask at all. If I thought it really, really helped something, but what are we doing? What are we putting on masks for? I mean, it's something like 98% of flu is down 98%. I mean, that is just so ridiculous, so ridiculous. They have ginned up this fear about something that doesn't even kill people. It doesn't kill kids. It's really, we just have to declare our freedom from that. So when you're thinking about science, because I was trying, I've always loved science and engineering and reading and studying various things. So I'm thinking, well, most people don't have time for that. So how do you know? How do you know? And so one of the ways you ask is, what is being done here? So if the funding is dependent on a certain answer, it's suspect. So you could say that with a pharmaceutical company like if they put out a drug study and it's funded by a pharmaceutical company, be a little suspicious, right? When you look at hydroxychloroquine, well, there's no money in it for anybody. So they squashed it, which also told me that they wanted this whole COVID epidemic and fear. I mean, why would you stop it? Even if it was a placebo, and even if it didn't do any good, why would you stop people from taking it if their doctors prescribed it? Why? But the politics got involved. That opened my eyes. So if you look at that, but then if you look at something where it's based on a projection, computer modeling, that's where you should get suspicious. So the whole climate thing is all computer modeling. It's all computer modeling and tampering with the temperatures. They definitely tamper with the temperatures. And then they highlight, oh, it's the hottest. No, it's not the hottest, okay? I've already discussed this before. I don't need to go into it again, but just say, well, wait a minute, okay? So they want you to give up something for some future thing. That's not going to happen. And the same thing has happened with the COVID. Oh, we're going to have all these deaths. We have to shut down. They've been planning these shutdowns, okay? But there's no evidence that it works. But it does help with the reset. And it's faster than using climate change. So the people who want to go to a more socialist system, a more global economy, they want that. So that's why they're so excited about this COVID, the lockdowns. Because they could implement all this stuff. They could make us into like a conformist Chinese Communist Party society. Really? They just changed our whole social structure. We're not interacting with people. We're wearing masks. For what, people? For what? Oh my God, it's like, wow. No wonder they're excited, okay? But we've got our president who's not ever going to do this again. He's not going to shut down. Whereas you get someone like Joe Biden, they'll just shut down over and over again. They keep pushing it further back. Like you hear people like Fauci, and oh, we're not going to get back to normal until... No, we'll never get back to normal with these people because they don't want it. So don't forget that. They don't want it. A lot of us are waking up. So, Time magazine. I didn't read the Time magazine, but I did go on Glenn Beck's site, and from there, I could read the articles from Time magazine about the Great Reset. And I read those articles, and here's one of the things that always strikes me about that. These people are not very smart. Like the woman at the International Monetary Fund, I think it was, talking about how they're going to lend to countries, and I read her. They know nothing about economies. They know nothing. So there's going to be part of the world that's going to get screwed by all this. But if you have our president not doing this anymore, and our gangbuster economy, our manufacturing jobs, our low energy costs, so yeah, we're going to have problems in California. But see, California, people like Gavin Newsom and Jerry Brown before him thought, oh, we'll lead the world and people will see how great. No, California with its rolling blackouts, its forest fires, all these problems, homelessness, they're not solving, high taxes, people leaving. They're an example of what not to do. You look to Florida and you see Governor Ron DeSantis. He's also never going to shut the place down again. He said, I'm not doing it. And Kristi Noem, not shutting down. She never shut down in South Dakota. Speaking of that, I was listening to a speech that Kristi Noem gave to the Heritage Foundation. And it was just so refreshing to hear her words. basically about being an American, and she wouldn't do that. She wouldn't take away Americans' rights. And I thought, right now, I mean, my little dream team for 2024 would be Ron DeSantis and Kristi Noem as vice president. I mean, we'll see. I mean, I know a lot of people want Mike Pence, but I think Mike Pence is just a little bit too nice. He's too nice. We need more of a fighter, and we need to know someone who has withstood the criticism, the very strong criticism that both these governors got when they opened up their states or didn't shut it down. So we're going to really do well, and we are going to be a beacon to the rest of the world. So it is Halloween, and as you know, one of the things I like to talk about, because most holidays all have to do with natural cycles. That's how they got started. So I learned one thing. You know, I'm very interested, about the seasons. So I didn't realize this. Now, Halloween, October 31st, actually, that's been fixed by tradition, but the true date is November 7th. And that was with the ancient Celts and Druids, in UK area. I like that, Andy. But anyway, that is halfway between the autumnal, well, that's for the northern hemisphere, the fall equinox, the September equinox, and the winter solstice. So it's like the halfway point. And I didn't realize that we had a halfway point. So technically it'd be November 7th. But there are other halfway points. They call them the 4 cross-quarter days. I just love, you can just look this stuff up on the internet. There's so many. So the cross-quarter days, Groundhog Day, February 2nd, May Day, May 1st, and then the one in August 1st is Lammas, Lammas. So anyway, that's what we have now. Nothing happens around here on, I think it's been maybe 15 years since there's ever been trick-or-treating to this house. Because I know they don't come down my street. I'm in a cul-de-sac, and my house is the only house that you can actually know where the front door is. So if somebody comes here, it's like, why are you coming down this street? So I don't answer the door. Anyway, I'm feeling very good. And it'll be lovely if we can know November 3rd. And I'm so glad I early voted. Oh man, was that fun? Was that fun? No lines. It was great. It was great. I encourage all of you to, if you haven't already, don't wait till the last minute. Seriously, don't wait till the last minute. Something could happen. I mean, not only personally could something happen, like what if you were sick that day or you had a family emergency or some reason you couldn't get, but then what if they tried to play some kind of game, okay? Or I was reading like in one place, like in Riverside County, the voting machines broke. Just don't take a chance, okay? Well, by the time you get this, it's Sunday, but go Sunday, go Monday. Don't wait till the last minute, just in case. And if you do go Tuesday, go early in the morning. Give yourself plenty of time, okay? This election is too important. And we really don't know how big the win for Trump will be. There is so much enthusiasm for him out there, and so many people who changed their votes. And I've seen a lot of people, like on Twitter, it was fun reading this one woman. She said, I was talking to my neighbors. They said, they really don't like Trump. They're super liberal, but with the rioting and stuff like that, and I mean, they're voting for him. And she said she was shocked. Okay, how many of those people exist out there? How many people aren't saying it, but they're voting for our president? And the rest of us, we're voting all red. So that's going to make a difference, because voting all red means we're not voting for any Democrats for Congress, or for the House of Representatives, or for the Senate. So I think we're going to keep both because of the huge turnout for Donald Trump. So this is going to be fun. And thank you for all your encouraging remarks. I didn't get a chance to respond to all the comments, and I really appreciate it. And Russ in Texas, I just want to say that after I did the last one, I just loved how you said, oh, this is great, this is great, this is great. And I really wanted to respond. I realized, oh my God, I didn't respond yet. So I put a little heart. But I'm sorry for those that I haven't been able, but let me tell you, I really love it. And a couple of you have sent me encouraging, oh, you're doing your video. So hi, Lou, and others. I really appreciate Green Cloud too. Green Cloud 8. I love your comments. It means that this forum is nice for you. But anyway, stay upbeat, and if it bothers you, if you're getting discouraged, use it as an opportunity for inner growth, okay? It is what it is, okay? I wouldn't even pray for a particular outcome. I would just pray that the right thing be done, and pray for your inner strength. And always remember, there are people who have fought and died for this country, okay? And what do we have to do? We just have to be strong, okay? That's all. And smart. That's all we have to do. Life is very good, and don't ever forget that. Bye. Bye, Andy. Don't be freaked out.